Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here as always by the man who holds leads better than the Baltimore Ravens. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, better than I was Thanksgiving night, but I am doing good. How are you doing, my friend?
What was wrong with Thanksgiving night?
My stupid team lost. We're going to talk about it in a second.
Oh,
I
right.
was
Yeah,
not
of course.
happy. I was not a happy
Uh-huh.
camper. So,
Yes, you look good. It's fine. Well, yes, we will talk about a lot to talk about as we have, plenty of games to get to. We will get to the Thursday games, the Thanksgiving games as well. So much, plenty of things to talk about. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm doing very good. How was your holiday?
Holiday was good. I saw my family. It's nice. I was able to drive up to the Tampa area, where I'm from, see my family, and then drive home Thanksgiving night. Perfect 1 day holiday. Had a great time.
That is good. That is good. This was my first stab at cooking for Thanksgiving,
Okay.
and everything went really well. Everything came out flawlessly. Uh, I would say it was an A+ job on my part, patting myself on the back. So, yeah, we'll see if I do it again next year.
Did you go with turkey? And I know some people like to get crazy and go with ham.
No, I did turkey. I seasoned it. I cooked it in the oven. I did this whole thing. I did turkey. I made green bean casserole, the superior side dish. Mac and cheese we made, and then my brother made mashed potatoes and stuffing. So we had that going.
Yeah, I mean, your brother saying, "Don't worry, I got the mashed potatoes." I mean,
And it was the box mashed potatoes. It wasn't even real potatoes. It doesn't matter. They were still fine.
yeah, but still, great stuff. Before we lose all of our viewers, we should probably talk about football
Yeah.
before we get too into the Thanksgiving dinner talk. We'll start off, as always, with the Thursday game. Kyle, a bit of a tough push for you as you locked up the Eagles -7. They end up winning by exactly 7. So you still get credit for the correct pick, but you don't get the extra point taken off your score for anyone who is keeping up with that stuff. But an interesting game, a 40-33 game. We saw a Jordan Love sighting. We saw Christian Watson just do Christian Watson things. Yet another touchdown in this one. But ultimately, the early turnovers, along with Jalen Hurts' rushing, was kind of too much for the Packers to handle.
Yeah, and I mean, 7.4 yards per carry felt low for the Eagles,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like it felt like it was like 37.4 yards per carry. Every time it seemed like Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell, whoever was touching the ball was in the open field, it seems like in the running attack. And it was a dominant performance from that offensive line. And just kind of a microcosm of this Green Bay season because Aaron Rodgers didn't start this game very well, kind of set them on the back foot with a couple bad turnovers. They were able to weather the storm and take the lead, but once again, this defensive line and linebacker group that we thought was going to be really good this season has just been abysmal once again, and they were dominated in this game.
Yeah, Kyle, 15 years ago, now to the day, because we are on the East, actually, no, it would be still another day. On November 29th, 2007, Aaron Rodgers replaced an injured Brett Favre. This is from Tom Pelissero on Twitter. He replaced an injured Brett Favre, and that kind of set the stage for him to become the quarterback next year. We now have Jordan Love replacing Aaron Rodgers in this one. I'm not saying that that's going to mean that he's, contract situation is very different, but still kind of an interesting little dynamic there.
Yeah, that is kind of funny that it worked out that way. Who would you bet on being the Packers quarterback next year?
I think I still go Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers is playing well. Like I know he's turning the ball over at a high rate. I mean, he was looking like he was going to break his record for most interceptions thrown in a season. Now with the injury, I don't know when he's going to be back, so maybe that won't happen. But I still think they go with Aaron Rodgers. I would go with Aaron Rodgers personally. It's either that or you trade him for a King's ransom.
Yeah, he could end up on the Jets next year. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, it's not crazy. I just don't think it's going to happen.
I don't think so either. But yeah, I mean, it is kind of ironic that it went down that way. We'll see what happens. I mean, he was not looking good with that injury earlier in this game. So, can't speculate on how long he's going to be out, but didn't look too promising. We'll see how that works out. And I mean, at 4-8, this season's basically over anyway. So, it may not hurt to rest him and see what you have in Jordan Love.
Yeah. I mean, it's over, I think, for the Packers. It looked like they were alive when they beat the Cowboys, but not so much. Also worth mentioning, the way Rodgers' contract is built up, if they were to trade him, you're not saving too much money. If you trade him before June 1st, it would be you're getting $100 million in dead cap there. And then if you're trading him after June 1st, you're not saving any money. Really, it's going to be about 30 million in dead cap. And then, you can always find ways to work around that with the weight, but you'd have to basically create a new deal while trading him as well. So that would just create another complication, which is why he'll probably stay.
Yeah. And, I think one of the things that we saw, it wasn't great, but once again, Christian Watson once again is showing that maybe next year he's ready to be that number one guy that this team desperately craves, because he is on an absolute tear right now. This game felt over and done with. And then all of a sudden, Christian Watson just rips off a 63-yard touchdown. And it's like, oh, the Packers are all of a sudden might be back into this game. Here we go. Of course, the Eagles go down and score because, the Packers can't get a stop to save their lives in this game. But this might be a guy they can kind of look at, and it may not be, this season might be over, but there might be a few tweaks that the Packers can be back in the conversation again next season.
I think so as well. I think that the Packers are dead for now, but they're not. They'll be back. This is not the last we'll see of the Green Bay Packers. I think with Aaron Rodgers competing. This is also not the last we'll see of the Eagles competing. The Eagles are now 10-1. Jalen Hurts, again, team over 350 yards rushing in this game. Jalen Hurts' passing numbers weren't outstanding, but they were still able to throw the ball effectively when they wanted to. Outside of the one A.J. Brown fumble, this offense rolling, they scored 40 points. Some of that was due to short field, but some of it was not. Some of it was just them legitimately being very difficult to stop and proving that this is not the Cardinals of last year. This is not the Patriots of a couple years ago, the Steelers of a couple years ago. Yeah, just because you start off undefeated doesn't mean you have to collapse in the second half.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they looked very good in this game. This offense looked like it was humming on all cylinders. And honestly, it looks like an offense that's also built to win in December and January, too. The way they can run this read option, I mean, this might be the best read option team in the league right now. They're so good at it. And it's just unbelievable the way Hurts execute those plays. I mean, he had 157 rushing yards. That's insane. It was insane behavior what they did today. And I know that Packers kind of worked their way back in the game. This wasn't the best Eagles defensive performance, but this entire game felt like the bully kind of holding their hand on the little kid's forehead while the kid's trying to swing away and hit at him. The Eagles just felt like they had the Packers at arm's length this entire game.
Yeah, no, the Eagles team, really good. Any final thoughts on this one?
No, I think we just about covered that.
All right, let's move on because again we have a lot to talk about in this one. Let's go to the overtime game. Why don't we? Raiders, Seahawks. The Raiders, they're back.
They are back, and then they're going to give a huge contract to Josh Jacobs in the offseason and have no cap space to improve this team going forward. It's Raiders football, baby. But hey, fun stuff. They're winning football games. This has been good.
Yeah, let's take it from the Raiders first, and then we'll get the winning team, and then we'll talk about the Seahawks for a second. Derek Carr still had another couple picks in this game, but he was able to look more like the Derek Carr that we've seen, that we want to see. Devontae Adams, just a pedestrian, 74 yards. But you're right, this was the Josh Jacobs show, 229 yards, obviously the biggest one being that long clincher in overtime.
Well, and not to mention the 74 receiving yards. He had over 300 yards in this game on his own.
Yeah.
He was absolutely ridiculous. And it seemed like every time they needed a big play, short yardage situation, he's dropping out to pass to. Everything they needed, he was able to do in this game. He was unbelievable, running hard, doing what he does best. And, this is probably the Raiders' best offensive line performance of the season, right? Like, this group had kind of getting beaten up a little bit. They'd gotten some negative attention. Then all of a sudden, they're able to whip off this game against what I still think is a pretty good Seattle front seven, especially defending the run. They're able to kind of dominate this game.
Yeah, they were. I mean, this was a impressive win from the Raiders. The Raiders at 4-7. There's still some hope, right? I mean, like until you get that, I feel like the 8th loss, you're still saying, hey, we got a chance. 10-7 could get you in.
Yeah, I mean, 9-8 still might get you in, but I'm much more confident in 10-7. That being said, there's a very small margin for error, but yes, it is still possible. There's some tough games left on their schedule. Los Angeles Chargers, New England, San Francisco, Kansas City. Those aren't necessarily guaranteed wins.
No, not at all. They put themselves in such a hole. I do feel like, I think it's fair to say the Raiders are better than their record. They're probably not going to make the playoffs because of just the hole they put themselves in, but I do think that this at least gives you some hope for the future.
Yeah, Josh McDaniels won't be one and done like some people wanted earlier in the season. I think that we've seen this team kind of grow into who it is. It's going to get better on defense, I think, next year because, I mean, it was another game again where they ended up making some plays in this game, but a lot of the stretch of the season has been one player basically making all their plays defensively. So I think they got to improve their defense a little bit, but we're seeing this offense start to come together with Josh McDaniels as head coach.
Yeah. Kyle, I have a thought. I had this thought. It's in my head. I have to say it. The Seahawks might stink. Is it possible the Seahawks stink? Because I'm kind of looking back at their season that we've seen so far. They're now out of a playoff spot at 5-6, although they're half game back and they have the extra game. So all I would have to do is win that extra game. But you look at who they've beaten. I mean, kind of their quality wins this season, where they beat the Giants and they beat the Chargers when the Chargers had no receivers. Those were their quality wins. This is still a team that's lost to the Falcons. They got crushed by the 49ers. They barely beat the Broncos. Maybe shouldn't have beaten the Broncos back in week 1. And now these past couple of weeks, they've lost to Tampa Bay and made Tampa Bay's offense look good, which is, that's never happened other than that game. And then you also saw this where their defense just could not get a stop against the Raiders. Is it possible the Seahawks aren't as good as maybe we thought they were?
It's possible. I mean, the thing that was so weird though is that like statistically, this team wasn't fluky. Like they graded out
Right,
exceptionally well. The Giants, despite winning football games, did not analytically grade out well.
right.
The Seahawks were grading out well statistically, and also the eye test said it looked like a really good football team. And even in this game, I thought they had moments where they looked like a good football team. But I thought it was weird where they got like Derek Carr basically gifted them the ball twice to start this game. And it was like, oh wait, they're only up 13-7 or whatever it was. They weren't able to put the ball away, and all of a sudden, I still think this team can make the playoffs just because it's like their last 2 losses. Yes, they're bad losses. They look bad, but it's a 5-point loss in a game in Munich where they flew like 15 hours or whatever it was. I mean, it was
Mhm.
a long flight, and then an overtime walk-off home run on this one. So it's like, I don't know. Like, can we say they're bad off of 2 losses like that?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't think they stink. I think you're right. I think that they're a team though that maybe they're not a clear cut playoff team. Maybe they're more of a team that's a fringe playoff team, a kind of a bubble team should be. I think that's where they're at.
Yeah, not to mention, I mean, not to play schedule guru here, but they still play the Rams twice, including next week. They play the Panthers at home,
Hmm.
and then
But then they
that's
play the Jets, Niners, and Chiefs too. So I mean,
yeah.
but
I
if
mean,
you're betting man, you'd say 3-3 down the stretch. I don't know if that gets you in.
it
It
might
might.
not. It might not. We'll see.
Mhm.
Because the bottom of the NFC is starting to show a little bit more competitive spirit, which I guess is good for us. But they just need one of those games. If they can get one of
Yeah.
those games, it's possible.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it should be interesting down the stretch. Those are two teams I'm very fascinated by. Let's talk. This is a game that you know, so much to talk about here. Your Jacksonville Jaguars coming through to pull off yet another late collapse by this Baltimore Ravens team. So much craziness here. We saw some great stuff from your guy Trevor Lawrence in the fourth quarter of this one, and again another collapse by the Ravens. Kyle, your thoughts?
Um, so just Trevor Lawrence has definitely earned himself a third season on his contract, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this was an unbelievable game for him, and
Mhm.
I gotta say, I said last week that this Ravens team doesn't feel right to me, and I was just
Mhm.
like, things feel off about it. It just seems like that they they don't look perfect in a lot of these games. And not that this is a perfect football team, but for a team that we want to take seriously as a contender in the AFC, I thought there were some issues, and it just doesn't seem like everything's in sync. Well, I mean, it just seems like this team keeps effing around and finding out too. It's the same thing as I said about a few other teams this season. They leave the door open time and time again, and then this time it bit them in the butt. And Jaguars executed down the stretch, and Lawrence was unbelievable down the stretch of this game. I mean, he was unbelievable those last 2 drives.
Yeah, I mean it was perfect. And is this Lawrence's best game in the NFL?
Um, Given the circumstances and the way he did it, I would say so. I mean,
Mhm.
because he had that Colts game last year where he looked good, but he was really just good in the first half, and then they held on for dear life for that Colts game at the end of the season. This one, I mean, he really brought this team back. This felt like a moment to me.
Yeah, could this be? I mean, you're right. It's interesting. Could this be the kind of what turns the tides? And we, maybe not what turns the tides, but could this be kind of the game that we view Lawrence differently now?
Yeah. I mean, he's starting to play some pretty good football. If you look at his last 3 games, I mean, he's at about 75% completion percentage his last 3 games. He's got 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. He is doing some really good stuff, and this was just the best of the bunch. So yeah, I mean, if he can keep this up, this could be the moment at the end of the season that swings around his career, and then we start to see the guy we are projecting as that #1 overall pick. Because the last 3 weeks, if we can get that last 3 weeks consistently out of him, he's going to be a great player for years to come.
Yeah, I checked his Pro Football Focus grade just to see where he was at. He's 21st in football this year, and that's not even counting this game. So like, I thought he would be lower than that. I mean, he's a tier 3 quarterback as of right now, and it's going to be higher after this game.
Yeah. Yeah, he's playing good football. You know, they weren't really able to establish a running game in this one. They were down double digits. They had to throw the ball, and it just seemed like, old Trevor Lawrence, you're waiting for that mistake at the end of this game, right? He has some flashes of brilliance that look like the Trevor Lawrence prospect that says everyone says wow to. And then you're just waiting for that mistake. You're waiting for that other boot to fall that kind of ends it. But he didn't have it in this game. He just made big play after big play.
Yeah, Joe in the chat, are we buying Jags again? Kyle, you love to buy into the Jaguars. One of your favorite pastimes is buying into Jacksonville. Are we buying in again?
Uh Not this season, I think, anymore. But this is
Oh,
another
next year
one.
you're going to be so on them.
Yeah, probably. I can
Hmm.
never talk myself into the Titans, so it's okay.
Yeah, it really does feel like every year it's just like we don't want the Colts and Titans to be the teams competing for the playoffs, so let's hope the Jaguars can do it, and we know the Texans won't.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So we got to talk ourselves into somebody else. Next year he's starting to establish a rhythm. He'll get Calvin Ridley next year. This could be something brewing here.
Yeah, Jets Unleashed in the chat asked, "Will the Ravens make the playoffs?" When I first saw it, I'm like, "Yeah, of course they'll make the playoffs." But like, that's another one where it's like it's not a lock there either. I mean, Cincinnati could win the division. They're 7-4. I mean, they're looking okay here, but as it stands, there's the Chargers are a game behind them currently. It's not and the Patriots are a game behind them. So I still say yes. I think they definitely feel like a playoff team, but like they got to stop losing. I don't get it. I don't get this Ravens team. This team should be competing for the 1 seed right now. I don't get how to keep losing these games.
Yeah. I don't get it either, but the good news for them is they got the schedule of cupcakes coming up. I mean, they got this Broncos team that can barely throw a forward pass anymore. They got the
Hmm.
Steelers twice, and they got the Falcons. That's probably 4 wins. And then we'll see what happens at Cleveland and at Cincinnati to end the season. But I mean, this is it's a weird team. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to I don't know if I'm going to buy into this team. Probably makes the playoffs. I don't know if I'm buying it beyond making the playoffs. So
Yeah, interesting. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I had them making the AFC Championship game in the preseason. They're not looking like they can do that here. But again, I guess the bright side is you'd rather lose games you should win than lose games that you shouldn't win, right?
that's
Or would you
true.
rather the other way?
I mean, it's crazy just because it's like I think it was 2 years ago we did our preseason prediction podcast, and both had the Ravens winning the Super Bowl or going
Uh,
to the Super Bowl or something like that. And then, I mean, the playoff resume speaks for itself. I mean, I think a lot of it's overblown with people just loving to count quarterback wins and losses against Lamar Jackson, and especially in the
sure.
playoffs. But the playoff resume of recent does speak for itself, and the way they haven't been able to perform at times, I think, in the postseason matters. And this team's looked unconvincing this year. It seems like whenever, the secondary looks good at times this year, and then at times it seems like it's getting burnt, like it was in the fourth quarter of this game. It seems like the offense is rolling, and then they dropped 13 points against the Panthers or whoever it was last week. So I don't know if I can trust this team at all.
Yeah, Kyle. Also, I guess one last thing that we almost I can't believe I almost forgot to talk about. I mean, this is right up what we like to talk about on this show. An all-time tweet from from Lamar Jackson after. So a fan tweeted out the tweeted a fan tweeted out that he thinks that they should move off of Lamar Jackson. You don't pay someone like that much money because he lost the game like this, which is okay. Not a take I agree with, but fine. He tagged Lamar Jackson in it. Lamar Jackson responds saying several things, and which I was looking up the exact tweet, but he's deleted it now. He left it up for a while. It was up there for hours.
Yeah.
Finally deleted it. But it was a an all timer.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I mean, did you see the Raven streamer too?
A little bit. I saw his response to it. I didn't actually watch the clip.
Yeah, he like the kid was like, I mean, he looked like a kid. I don't know how old he is, but he was like smashing his keyboard and like he had a pumpkin in wherever he was recording to and started punching the pumpkin. It was very
Okay.
bizarre. I think I tweeted about it. It was pretty funny. Ravens are a little unhinged right now, but yeah, the Lamar one was insane. Lamar, if you want a full contract, New England has its doors open for you, baby. Come on in.
Yeah. Hey, I'm thinking after Brady leaves us this year, I'm hopeful we can throw a hat in the ring.
You're done poaching quarterbacks. We're tired
No,
of
we're
this.
not. This is what I mean. Hey, this is the retirement home of the NFL.
Get somebody else who's retired. Go get Troy Aikman or something like that. Get another
Listen,
one.
I'll still take that over Kyle Trask.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Sure. Let's move on. Why don't we? Let's go to the team they're tied for the division lead with. The Cincinnati Bengals pull off a big win for the Bengals, who have been definitely a hot and cold team this season off of the rarely called or rarely seen. I feel like it's called when it happens, but the rarely seen roughing the long snapper penalty. I mean, what are you doing? Titans losing a game because of that. The Bengals end up winning this one by 4 points. A fun game all around, I thought. Kyle, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it was just kind of a boneheaded play at the end of that game. I don't even know if they come back and win it at that point, but it was a boneheaded play from that because, I mean, it's been established don't touch the long snapper. We've seen guys
Mhm.
jump over the long snapper. We've seen every sort of thing besides basically touching the long snapper. So, bad play there. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like these two teams are pretty even, right? I mean, it was pretty close all the way to the end. Joe Burrow came up with some big plays in this one, and he was great once again. Um, that's really what I thought the difference was. Bengals shorthanded, able to get this win.
Yeah. Also, DG in the chat has the Lamar Jackson quote. So if you want to check, if you want to know exactly the word for word, that's what I was laughing at when I saw that. Just again, fantastic stuff. Yeah, weird game. Titans had one touchdown, and it was on a fumble recovery in the end zone by Traylon Burks. So
Yeah.
that was good. Other than that, though, really this Titans offense, I think I think the Bengals did a good job shutting this team down. Now, the Titans still had more yards per play than the Bengals, but again, they had that one very long play that kind of skewed the stats a little bit, which you get credit for. You had that long play. Tannehill was still able to, I thought he played fine, but really what kind of maybe the big story of this game is Derrick Henry, 17 carries for just 38 yards, 2.2 yards per carry. This offense goes when Derrick Henry goes, and Derrick Henry didn't go, so this offense struggled.
Yeah, he got Fetty Whopped in the running game. That's 1738.
I don't know. I don't know what that means. Am I too much of a boomer to get this?
Fetty Wap, he starts his song with 1738. Never mind.
I
And
I see. Yeah, okay. Oh yeah. There you go. Yes.
of course. Look, I mean, I don't know. Like this was I feel like we are always good for one of these Derrick Henry games a season, right? It's just like, one of these games he ends up with just this weird rushing total. And it's just like, okay, the Titans kind of lost that game, and that's what it is. He did really good in the receiving game. Obviously, like you said, he had that big play. And then, I mean, the one thing with this passing game is like, if Traylon Burks is really this guy, and I wonder who had him. I wonder who had him bet for first touchdown was a fumble recovery in the end zone.
Right.
But if he really is this guy, this passing game I think is going to be pretty good. And he's not quite AJ Brown, but he's been pretty good the last few weeks, and I think that's really helped his team.
Yeah. Yeah. You have Nick Hain, Westbrook. Again, they have guys who can play, right? Like Austin Hooper. We see Robert Woods. I feel like every game kind of show a little flash that he's still Robert Woods, although he hasn't been quite the same guy as he was in LA. Like you see these flashes consistently. You see how it works, but it's just like they do need that one piece to build their offense around. And when Derrick Henry's not going, it just doesn't look as good.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. But I mean, it still was a pretty good performance. I'm not faulting him too much for this game. I guess you could say, you know what, with the Bengals shorthanded, you probably should have got this game. But they ran into a good team, and a good team, good team beat them. And I thought Tennessee had a chance to win this game too if a couple plays bounced their way. I don't feel like it didn't feel like they were out of place in this game. And I think a rematch could be a coin flip too.
Yeah, it was interesting because one of the things we talked about was the difference between this and the divisional round last year. No Jamar Chase. Well, T. Higgins kind of filled that role nicely. T. Higgins, I think, showing that, there's been kind of the talk of, okay, everyone says he's a number one who's just playing the number two role because he's on a team with Jamar Chase, but can he actually be a guy who you can run an offense around? Yeah, he can, which is what we thought, but yeah, he clearly can.
Yeah, he really can. So it's still way too early, it feels like. We talk about it, though, every week, and I feel like it needs to be brought up again because I still feel like there's a lot of candidates. Where's Joe Burrow at in MVP rankings right now?
Interesting. I don't know. He's not someone I would still say to me, Mahomes. It's Mahomes is to lose. I think
It
Burrow
definitely
has
is.
put himself in a position where if Mahomes has a bad game or two, I think he could sneak into the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, so he's third in passing right now this season behind Allen and Mahomes. He's 23 touchdowns. He's behind Mahomes' 29, but he has 8 interceptions just like Mahomes. And a lot of those, as long as he doesn't play Pittsburgh, it doesn't seem like he takes care of the ball exceptionally well.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I think he's got to be in the conversation if we're going to, I, I'm still having Tua in that conversation. I think he deserves to be in it at this point. Josh Allen might have slipped a little over the last few weeks, although I still think he's in the conversation. Geno Smith's definitely fallen out of the conversation, I think, a little bit the last couple weeks. It'd be interesting to see if he's in the conversation at the end of the season. He's played lights out football all year.
Yeah, sixth in PFF grade on top of all of that stuff you said. So I'm with you.
Yeah. I mean, it is Mahomes should still be the heavy favorite. I'm just, if you want to make it a little more interesting, we say who else is in there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Speaking of interesting, let's go to one of the more interesting games of this week. The Chargers defeating the Arizona Cardinals in what was a fun one, as this Chargers team just finds a way to pick up some of these wins and stay alive here as they score a touchdown with 14 seconds left. They go for two, convert the 2-point conversion, and are able to win this one. I do feel like, listen, it might not necessarily be Keenan Allen being the guy who makes the catches, but just his presence on the field helps. I mean, you saw it with that 2-point conversion as Keenan Allen ran the setup route that allowed Everett to get wide open for the 2-point conversion play. He matters a lot. We also saw one of the great, maybe the best 4-yard catch of all time here with DeAndre Hopkins as well. But as a whole, it kind of says, I do feel like this Chargers team is a better team when they have at least one of their kind of two receivers they built their offense around in Keenan Allen.
Yeah, it definitely helps. And he also caught a touchdown, which, it also helps that he can do that too.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, he was good in this game. And so there's been a weird rhetoric. I've definitely had my fair share of, questions about Justin Herbert, but I feel like there's been a very weird rhetoric lately about Justin Herbert, about how he's what is it that I saw today? Like
Well,
social media thrower, something
yeah.
like that?
Kenneth Lee in the chat, the social media quarterback
There we
balled
go.
out today. Yeah, I don't know exactly. I was hoping that you could explain that to me. Can someone in the chat? I think Emmanuel Acho is involved here, which
Oh, that guy said it? Oh my God.
I
I
don't know
don't even
why.
know.
Why do we listen to him? Why is he a guy?
Why is he on TV?
Is he on TV? I literally didn't even. I don't even know.
I don't know. It seems like there's a whole bunch of Fox Sports people that pop up, and it's just like they just say things on Fox Sports, and then some of it trickles to social media because nobody watches Fox Sports. Like, this is basically how it works. We see these Shannon and Skip things because nobody watches that show. Nobody watches. I just don't get it. It's very hard. Like, they have Rob Parker, I think, still on their thing too. I don't know. Anyway, besides that, Justin Herbert's awesome. I don't care about the social media stuff. It's a weird thing to say, and it's just because I think I've had questions about him before in the past because I think, there were things like his ability to throw over the middle. He hadn't been very good at that earlier in his career. I think he's beginning to figure this stuff out. I think he's a super duper star.
Super
And
duper star.
super duper star. And,
Whoa.
I think that, my questions about the Chargers and my frustrations with the Chargers this season have never been about Justin Herbert's ability. It's been the team around him either failing or being injured, and it's not been able to work out because of that. But Justin Herbert continues to be amazing. I just don't understand the slander behind it. Like, it's Justin Herbert's fault his team is hurt or not performing to the level of his abilities because he's unbelievable.
Yeah. And I even thought the kind of over middle stuff wasn't entirely his fault either, although I won't absolve him of the blame as well. But yeah, I mean, I think it kind of goes back to the, people don't really pay attention and kind of think if receivers aren't getting open, it's the quarterback's fault for not throwing to an open guy, even if no one's actually open. Yeah, I guess the social media quarterback, it means that he's someone who makes these highlight reel level plays, but you kind of overlook the bad moments.
I guess that's the argument.
Is this a take still from Justin Herbert in college? Because I think that was what people said about him in college.
No, I mean the real social media
has Emilio Acho watched Justin Herbert in the NFL?
I don't know. I honestly don't know if he has, but I mean, I don't know. Like it's such a bizarre just thing to say. Like the real social media quarterback has to be Sam Darnold, who weirdly won today. So
Yeah.
he would be a real social media quarterback. But the thing is like our obsession with quarterback wins drives us to this point where we have to be against guys because their team loses games. Nobody was saying this crap about Deshaun Watson when he won 4 football games a couple years ago because Deshaun Watson was playing football out of his mind. Deshaun Watson, was a very good quarterback. Why is it all of a sudden held against Justin Herbert because his team's 6-5? Honestly, this team would be like would this team be 3-7 even if it wasn't for him? Probably, or 3-8?
They'd be competing for number 1 overall pick easily.
Yeah. I just think it's such a bizarre. We're obsessed with quarterback wins. And I mean, it sounds like the Moneyball things, not the process for why quarterbacks win football games. It's a bizarre thing that we continue to count quarterbacks as wins and losses when that's not the case. It's a 22-man sport.
Right. Oh, wow. Disrespect to the special teams guys.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I mean, you could go all 53 guys on the roster.
Sure. Yeah. Well, no. Yeah. Good quarterbacks tend to win more football games because they do matter so much. But you're right. It's not a 1-to-1 kind of thing. Kyle, do the Chargers make the playoffs this year? A quick question because I saw it in the chat. They're currently, as I mentioned, a game out behind the Jets, and the Bengals are the next closest. They're also tied with the Patriots. Do you think they make it or no?
They got to find a way to win 4 games. At Raiders is looking like a tougher game than it was a few weeks ago. If you base it on their wins and losses, even though I think that was a better team than what their record showed. Miami at home is not going to be an easy one. Tennessee at home is not going to be an easy one. Indianapolis on the road, I still think Indianapolis is a competitive football team. The Rams at home they should beat, and the Broncos on the road they should probably beat. So you could probably guarantee 8 wins. Can they get 2 of those toss-up games? I think it's possible, but I'm not betting on it.
I can see it. They feel like they're definitely a bubble team. We'll see if they make it. Let's move on. Let's go here. Why don't we? Let's rip off the Band-Aid. The Buccaneers losing to the Cleveland Browns in overtime. I didn't put that on the banner, but it was an overtime loss. Just an inexcusable loss that should never have happened. I mean, this is just, I don't know. It's a frustrating game. I don't want to sit here and say it's the coaching, right? Because I feel like that's what every team does when they're bad. Every fan of a team does when they're bad. They say it's all the coaching's fault, and this is a great team that is losing simply due to coaching. But man, the coaching is tough. I mean, this is we saw Todd Bowles basically, they had an opportunity to have over a minute left to try to go for that final drive, and Todd Bowles just lets the clock run out, essentially, and they weren't able to have enough time. His explanation for why he did that was because there wasn't enough time left to call timeouts, which, what are you talking about, Todd Bowles? That doesn't make sense. I don't get what you're saying. This was a frustrating game. They also didn't go for it on a 4th and 2. Instead, kicked the punt that ended up only netting 17 yards. So some tough decisions. Brady missed some throws. Mike Evans looks weird, and the defense gave up some tough plays. And hey, Browns, Joey Brissett's played well this season, and Amari Cooper, despite that drop on 4th down, has been very good. Nick Chubb is very good. This is, Browns have some pieces. They're not a bad team, but still, the Browns have some issues on defense. The Buccaneers just could not take advantage, and that's really the main reason they lost.
Yeah, it was an interesting game just because it was like this was the first game we really saw the Browns kind of cover this year. And it seemed like on the outside they had struggled a lot this season. And I was looking at who was it? Martin Emerson Jr. It seemed like every time they needed a big play on the outside, he was on coverage and he was making life difficult for Mike Evans. I mean, he's 6'2", 201. That's the kind of the corner you want to play Evans on the outside.
I'm going to interrupt you right now, Kyle.
Yeah.
Sorry, but Jonathan Vilma driving me crazy as the color commentator during this game. Of several times, Emerson gets beat badly. Mike Evans is open. Brady missed the throw, and Vilma's like incredible coverage. I mean, this is what a great job this guy. I'm not saying he didn't play well. I'm just saying Jonathan Vilma. I don't know. Not my favorite color commentator.
Yeah. He definitely had some good moments still, I thought. It definitely wasn't as good like you were saying.
No, Emerson was good. I'm not trying to take
Yeah.
that, but I'm just saying the commentating annoyed me.
Yeah, so this Buccaneers team just continues to be so frustrating, right? And I can understand where you're coming from. Like, it just seems like this team's inability to really like run the football and run the football effectively, and like, I don't know, like they're one of the like I'm amazed that they're not last in the league in third down conversion efficiency, because it seems like every time they're stuck in a third and long, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8, or they're in a 3rd and 1, they run the ball right up the middle for nothing. And it just seems like every time this happens, and they're 4 and 15 on 3rd down again. Now Cleveland was equally not very good again on 3rd down, but it just seems like you have all of these guys in your arsenal. Like Chris Godwin could have got anything he wanted, it seems like, in this game. It seemed like every 3rd down, you weren't able to put him in a position to succeed. I just don't understand why this team, like, the raw numbers on Brady look pretty good. The raw numbers on Godwin look pretty good. Evans wasn't great this game, but the raw numbers on Evans look pretty good this season. Why is this team failing so much?
Yeah, I mean, you bring up the 3rd down conversion. So if you look at 3rd down conversion over expected, so that's taking into account situation, how far it is. Bottom 5 teams, you have the Panthers, the Texans, the Broncos, the Jets, and the Buccaneers. I mean, like, you should not be on that list. That should not be a list that you're on. You're absolutely right. And it feels like this is a team that should be more successful. I feel like the offensive mindset of throwing the ball immediately the second Brady gets it is a mistake. I think that you can throw the ball down the field. They don't want to. I've completely given up hope that the Buccaneers will change things. I don't think they will. I think this is what they want to do. It's like the stuff that drove me crazy of Zach Taylor last year. The difference is that Bengals team was good enough to kind of override that stuff. This Buccaneers team also isn't as good as that team was. They're not as good as they were last year. I think that also hurts them.
Yeah. Well, they're probably going to lean more into it because, I mean, that Tristan Wirfs injury did not look very good. Have you seen anything on that?
I think it's not as bad as we thought it would be. He should be out a couple weeks, but I don't think it's a season ender, which is definitely very good.
Yeah. I mean, this felt like another letdown game. I mean, they were up 17-10. You got shut out at the end of the game, and it just made absolutely zero sense.
They punted every time. I mean, they had 6 possessions in regulation and then 2 in overtime, all punts, with the exception being the one that ended because of the half.
So you said after the game they got to fire Bowles.
Yeah.
Are you actually a belief that this team should let the coach go after one season?
Kyle, if they fired him tomorrow morning, I'd be happy about it. This is just, I mean, why do we give coaches this? It's like we've seen Todd Bowles do great stuff as a defensive coordinator. We have, and a defense this year has still been very good. But clearly, you have to make an adjustment, and the fact that you're unwilling to make an adjustment, if a player was having the performance that Todd Bowles is having this season, they would not still be a starter. How come for coaches they get the luxury of still? You don't have the chance. You're not a team that can sit here and say, well, let's give them a few years to make stuff happen. You're a win now team. It'd be different if you were, if this was a new regime and just started. It's a weird situation with the Buccaneers. They're in a unique spot. So this is an example where I would be okay with a one and done. I mean, this is probably Brady's last year here. Like, I can't imagine he'd want to hang around for another year, even if he does play.
Yeah. It is interesting. I think that there might need to be a change. I mean, if it's not Bowles, it's got to be Leftwich at some point this season, right? Like, how can you keep seeing this happen over and over again and then expect the results to change? Because this is a team that seemingly cannot score the football really at all. They scored 31 points. They scored over 30 points once this season. It was against Kansas City in a game that was basically over by halftime, anyways. So,
Right.
like, this is a team that really is kind of, they're going to score 17 to 21 points, it seems like, and the defense has to hold off. So it just seems odd. Yeah.
One thing that I do feel like, one weird thing is the Buccaneers are just not getting takeaways anymore. I don't know what happened. They did against Seattle, but since then they've gone through a very long stretch without any turnovers at all. And they're not turning the ball over either. I mean, basically every game has no turnovers. Now, There was one interception on the stat sheet. It was on a Hail Mary. So that was kind of, maybe a bit misleading. Other than that, I mean, that's just this other weird thing. It's like you would have liked to see kind of that go the other way. But since the Chiefs game, they've only had one game where they've gotten an interception or a turnover in general on either side of the ball, not counting Seattle or the Hail Mary interception.
Yeah, and the vibes haven't been very good lately, right? Like we saw, like Carlton Davis basically stormed off the field in this game. I didn't think
Mm-hmm.
he had a very good game in this one. I thought some
He
of
also
their
got banged up too.
yeah. So we'll see what happens with this team. But yeah, I mean, it seems like it's in a bad spot. So it's a you know, it's definitely a tough look for them to drop this game, especially when they're up ahead. And it seemed like things were kind of working a little bit. And I mean, they just basically sat on their hands in fourth quarter, and then the Browns are like, "Okay, we'll win this game then." It was very odd.
Yeah.
Um, you know, anything else you want to say about Tampa Bay?
No.
So Cleveland, the
Yeah.
Cleveland Browns,
They have a chance. They're not dead yet.
they're not dead. 4-7. Deshaun Watson coming back. I mean, from what we've seen from Jacoby Brissett this year, which by the way, I think it's a commendable effort, even though it's only 4-7. What he was
Mhm.
able to do this season and helping this team, helping this offense succeed. With what he was able to do, you got to think if Deshaun Watson is kind of, I don't know what the rhythm's going to be like game one. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but at the same time, if he can give you what Brissett, at least what Brissett's doing, if not more this season, I mean, this could be a nice little run they put together at the end of the year, right?
It's possible. I mean, I do have to say though, next week against the Texans, that might be the worst atmosphere. I mean, if you thought Russell Wilson returning to Seattle was tough, I mean, this is going to be the worst atmosphere of all time for Deshaun Watson.
I would imagine so. I mean, we'll see how much life the Texans fans have left based on this season, but
Oh, they have life.
if they,
I'm sure they're going to show up for this one.
I would imagine this would be the one game that they're at least. This has got to be their Super Bowl, basically.
Oh yeah,
Because yeah, I mean, so Cleveland has to win out, though, is the problem.
right.
And even if Watson's awesome, even if he's as good as he was 2 years ago, winning out's not a guaranteed thing because they got to go at Cincinnati. They play Baltimore at home. At Washington, I think is a tricky game. Now they should beat the Texans on the road next week. That is their Super Bowl. We'll see, but they should beat them. Uh, the Saints at home, they should win that game, and at Steelers at the end of the season, they should win that game. But it's not a guaranteed thing. They win all those games.
No, and like you said, Brissett's played well this year, so it's not like the quarterback was like the reason they were losing football games already. So, yeah, it seems like this season is just they're building for next year, but they're not dead yet. Let's move on. Why don't we? Let's talk about another crappy NFC South team that just cannot seem to get out of their own way. The Atlanta Falcons had a prime opportunity to take the lead in the division. Once again, they blow it here to Washington. There's that weird final play here, but as a whole, offense just not doing what it was doing earlier on this season. Again, competitive game. Two teams that both feel like they're fringe playoff teams. The Commanders are in a playoff spot. Every team in the NFC East is in a playoff spot currently. Atlanta nearly got it done, just wasn't quite able to pull it off at the end there.
Yeah, it feels like that's kind of been Atlanta's thing all year,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. I really like this Washington win. I like this Washington team. They have this, you know, I think they know exactly who they are, right? Like I think they know that it's like not an awesome football team, but they had this competitive spirit about them. And it just seems like every game they're really like rallying behind each other. I don't know. There's just something about the way they approach the game that I enjoy. Brian Robinson put together probably his best game of his young career. I'm
Mm-hmm.
excited to see what he can do. Um, you know, Taylor Henneke, I mean, I can't explain it. He continues to have a couple touchdowns a game, though. He makes things happen somehow, some way. And then this defense, they're slowly but surely getting guys healthy too. And it seems like that they're going to put it together a pretty good year.
Yeah, Brian Robinson trucked AJ Terrell, another guy. I had him as a top 5 running back in my running back rankings. Why am I good at running backs? Why is that the one position I have down? That's the position I care least about. Why am I good at evaluating that?
Well, maybe someone should hire you just for that.
I guess so. That's the one. Just don't listen to my wide receiver takes.
Wide receiver's hard position. I mean, he runs so awkward too, right? Like he runs so
Uh-huh.
high. Like it's almost like he's standing up straight and he still has the power to run people over. It's so bizarre, but he makes it work. And he's got big cats, so that's cool.
Yeah. And one of the guys who I would least like to shoot.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I feel like he would just shake it off.
Yeah, probably. He'd
I mean,
come
I don't
back
want to
at
shoot anybody, but if I had to shoot someone, like, he'd be low on the list.
really top 5 NFL players you want to shoot. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we already talked about Deshaun Watson. We'll go
Oh, boy.
going over to the for legal reasons, that is a joke. Let's talk about Taylor Heineke for a second. Is this a thing? Is
This
Taylor
guy
Heineke a thing?
stinks. I don't get it. This guy stinks, but he keeps doing this. Yeah, I don't get it. He keeps making this thing happen. I don't know. He just has he has some of the worst looking touchdown passes I've ever seen in my entire life. Like I don't understand. It looks. I said this before, and it still remains true to me. It keeps looking like he continues to look like a quarterback who was like a high school varsity player that they just plucked off this field like the week before, and then said, "Hey, make a wish. It's your turn to start an NFL game." And then he's on the field for the Washington football team, the Commanders, whatever their name is nowadays. He's just on the field making plays, and he's making things happen. He's pumping his fist. He's excited beyond all belief. It's such a bizarre thing to see. This guy's not very good, but clearly he has something that the guys rally behind on his team.
I don't know. I don't get it. I legitimately have no clue what's happening. This is it's not quite Tim Tebow-esque, but it's getting there.
It feels a lot like it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Kyle, what's the if Taylor Heineke takes this Washington football team to the playoffs? Do you build around Taylor Heineke?
I hope not, but I mean, I guess you could say, it's on, you may not have the quarterback solution now, but you have something you could plug in the meantime. I don't think this is a future option. I don't think he should be a future option, but he's someone that can at least step in and play. I guess there's value to that, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, again, someone's saying, "OMG, you are comparing him to Tim Tebow." Listen, Taylor Heineke is the 38th rated quarterback according to PFF out of 39 eligible quarterbacks. I mean, this is a guy who statistically is not great. I think if you watch his tape, you're like, okay, there's a ton of mistakes here, but he finds ways, and it's like, and he's like, I wouldn't even call him clutch. Like in the fourth quarter, I feel like he's made a ton of tailwind errors, but he's winning. You have to say he's doing something right. He's winning football games.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this was a guy who was 14 to 23, a buck 38, 2 touchdowns and a pick in this game. It's not like we were talking about a guy who threw to 275 and 3 scores. I mean,
Yeah,
this is, I wouldn't say this is that slanderous. I think this is kind of exactly who Taylor Heineke is, but I mean, whatever it is, Washington has seemed to buy into it right now.
yeah. Matthew in the chat saying Taylor is a born entertainer and everyone on the team loves him. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to it, but yeah, I mean, it is working right now, and Washington is on a roll. I am buying into Washington because I'm buying into the rest of their team. They've established an identity. This is going to be one of the best defenses in football. Terry McLaurin's going to make a few big plays for this team, and they're going to run the ball and establish their running game on the ground. I mean, since that 4-game running streak, they have performed like one of the best football teams in the league. I mean, they are legitimately 6-1 over this stretch. I mean, that's unbelievable.
Yeah. No. Incredible stuff. Let's move on. Let's do Bears Jets. Why don't we? I, for one, welcome our Mike White overlord as he. I don't know what exactly to make of this game. I really don't. I think some people are going to say Mike White is clearly the future. They were playing the Bears defense. I do think that's a big thing. I do think Mike White he fits what the Jets offense wants to do. Like, I can't imagine Zach Wilson running this offense as well as Mike White did in this game. Even if you want to say the Bears defense, all that stuff. Like, and I don't know if some quarterbacks would consider. So I don't think Taylor Heineke runs the offense the way Mike White did in this game. Right? I think that he was able to do stuff effectively. I think the Bears defense is very bad. The Bears did not have Justin Fields, so their offense was not able to do. For a second, it looked kind of frisky, but really it fell off at a certain point. But what we were still able to see was, Jets look very good against a bad defense. I don't know what to take away from it, but it would have been bad if they didn't look good in this game. He looked good, so first test passed.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, I don't know if Mike White's the future of this team, but he's certainly the present of this team, it feels like right now. I mean, because, it seemed like the verbiage used in the benching of Zach Wilson felt like this was more of like a unofficial official 1 game suspension from the team, basically
Hmm.
saying that they want him to take more accountability. He's suspended for this game. He's not playing for this game, and Mike White's going to play. You can't bench Mike White after this game, right? Like, I know the defense isn't very good that he went against, but this is probably the best offensive performance of the season.
Well, that's why that whole thing made no sense to me. Of like they said we're gonna start Mike White, but we're gonna go back to Zach Wilson later on in the season. I never understood why you would do that. Either you should be trying to win football games. That should be the only thing you're trying to do. Put the best player in. I think Mike White is the best player. I think that you should put Mike White in. But to play the Vikings the next week and the Bills the week after. I mean, Vikings defense can be up and down. Bills defense is very good. So for Mike White, I think that's going to be, if he can continue to play, I think he's going to get the start against the Vikings. And if he can just get past that stretch, it's his job for the taking. Because then you play the Lions, the Jaguars, the Seahawks, and the Dolphins. Not scary defenses. So he's just got to get past those 2 games.
Yeah, Bills outdoor. Good luck, man. But we'll see. We'll see if he can do it. I mean, he was really good in this game. Like you said, you take it with a grain of salt because this Bears defense is horrible. And I mean, one of his touchdowns, like one of his big plays, I think it was the touchdown. Yeah, Eddie Jackson got hurt in the middle of the big play.
Right.
And it wasn't even anything happened. It was like a non-contact injury. And he was the guy covering Garrett Wilson. All of a sudden, he's on the ground, writhing in pain. And Garrett Wilson turns around and he's like, wait, nobody's covering me. I'm just going to run for a touchdown now. So, like, I think you take some of it with a grain of salt, but at the same time, I thought he played pretty well despite all the stuff happening around him. And, I think he deserves a chance to keep, showing what he can do with this job. The one bizarre thing, so like, as we've talked about this Jets quarterback fiasco, Mike White's been on this team the whole season. Why the hell was Joe Flacco playing to start the year?
Yeah, I don't know. I never understood that.
I didn't get it either. I mean, and apparently, like, I was hearing that the preseason reports that Mike White was like outperforming him in training camp. Like, a lot of this just makes zero sense. Like, what? I think Robert Saleh's done a really good job with this team. This defense looks like a Robert Saleh defense, but some of this decision making when it comes to this position, which is, by the way, the most important position in football, seems very bizarre.
Yeah, I don't know. You're right. Absolutely a weird thing. Jets, you still feel good about them making the playoffs?
I mean, I feel about as good with them as I do with some of the other teams here. I mean, they're 7-4. If you say, if we're going to go with every other team and say count the wins, well, I don't think the Giants, I don't think the Lions, the Jaguars, or the Seahawks are guaranteed wins, but I think they can win all 3 of those games. I think they could, they've already beaten the Bills this year.
Right.
The Vikings aren't always the most, convincing team despite their record. And, the Dolphins, I think are a better team. But they beat the Dolphins this year, too. Now, granted, that was without Tua. So, can they win 3 of these games? Absolutely. This defense can beat anybody.
Yeah. Kenneth Lee says because Joe Flacco is elite. Yes, of course. That's the reason. We have elite Joe Flacco. That's why he started this season. Let's move on. Kyle, we teased it at the beginning of the show. Let's finally get into it nearly an hour into the show. Your Patriots played the Vikings tough. This is a very competitive game. Your thoughts on this one?
We're a stupid football team. And you know what happens with stupid football teams? Stupid football teams don't beat good football teams. And I'm so sick of watching the Patriot way. We cannot talk about the Patriot way anymore. Whatever this Patriot way thing is, what we talk about over and over again, the Patriot way is dead. This stupid football team lost a stupid game because they made stupid decisions at the end of the game. What is Pierre Strong doing? It wasn't like a punt that was really adversarial for him to go and rush the punter. He was good. He was defending the gunner. He was supposed to block. Why is he coming off the edge there and trying to make a big play for no reason at all? He goes and hits the punter, and it's so stupid. It's just a stupid play that cost us this game. And there was just so many stupid plays in this game. I can't stand watching this team make so many back-breaking mistakes over and over again. I can't take it. I hate this team.
Wow, Kyle, I did not expect such a reaction.
Yeah, I mean, regardless, I think it was just, there were some good things in this game, right? Like, Mac Jones had by far his best game of the season, right? Like,
yeah. I thought this was an optimistic game from them. I mean, the Vikings offense kind of roughed up your defense a little bit more than we thought. But again, It's the Vikings, right? They're very good offensively. I thought we finally saw some Mac Jones life. Finally.
Yeah, I mean, he looked really good, and I think there's some reason for optimism. And like I said, he's going to have the rest of the season to prove that he can be the guy that's the starter going into next season. But I mean, look, Jackson. I mean, you look at it. Look at this team. They beat the Steelers by 3. They beat the Browns. They beat the Lions. And that was the Browns in the middle of a losing streak. They beat the Jets twice with Zach Wilson, who's now not a starting quarterback, and they beat the Colts with Sam Ellinger, who's not a starting quarterback. They also lost to the Dolphins, they lost to the Ravens, they lost to the Packers, and now they lost to the Vikings. This team has to find a way to get to 10 wins, and I don't think there's 10 wins on the schedule based on the way they perform against good teams. They're not beating the Bills 1 or 2 times. They can't defend Josh Allen that well. How are they going to beat those 2 teams? I think Kyler Murray is the kind of quarterback who has given them trouble all year. These mobile quarterbacks that can go off script is going to give them a ton of problems. I don't think the Raiders is a for sure win. I don't think the Bengals, they're going to be underdogs. The Bengals are definitely going to be underdogs, and the Dolphins at home, they're probably going to be underdogs. There might not be 1 win on the schedule, never mind 10 or 4 to get to 10 wins.
Yeah, well, there's definitely not 10 on the schedule still. I don't know. I mean, I get your point. I didn't realize their schedule was this tough going up. You're right. That puts things into perspective a little bit. I think there's things to like about this team still. But yeah, I mean, it's that's tough, the schedule you're in. But at the same time, I know you're saying this, but like I could easily like sort of turn it on its head and say the Lions are a pretty good team. You beat them 29-0. Yes, you lost to the Packers, but you lost to the Packers with Bailey Zappi in at quarterback. And you've been getting better as the games have gone by. The reason why Zach Wilson isn't a starting quarterback is because you beat him so badly that they benched him.
Yeah.
Twice.
I mean, look, I still like this defense overall, but it just seems like every time I watch this team play, it's a couple plays here and there that just seem like it cost them dearly over and over again. The punt block scenario where Pierre Strong's coming off the edge just made no sense. There was plays, every time this team gets down to the red zone, it seems like they're a bad sack away from, making a boneheaded play. They were 0-3 in the red zone again in this game. And it just seems like the red zone offense has been a problem because whenever they take a bad sack, whenever they have a negative rushing play, or whenever they take a penalty, which they committed a lot of penalties now, especially, Isaiah Wynn didn't play in this game, but when Isaiah Wynn and Trent Brown are on those edges, they commit a lot of penalties, it seems like, too. And it seems like every time they have momentum going, it's a bad play there that seems like it sets them backwards. And it happened again in this game.
Yeah. Where do the Patriots go from here? If the Patriots do, like you said, what if they go, I don't know, 2-4 down the stretch, they go 8-9, what do you do? Lamar Jackson?
I mean, so like I said, I think Mac Jones has the ability to prove himself as a starting quarterback. And if he plays like this, there's reason to believe that he could be a starting quarterback still in this league. I was high on him after last season. I thought he looked good. Now, granted, with the way quarterbacks are in this league, I think mobility really helps, which he doesn't have. And it's going to be, they're going to have to figure out a way to kind of construct a better offense around him, I think. I think that they're going to have to go and add talent to the receiving core. I think they need talent on the offensive line still. I think they're probably going to need another guy in the secondary too. But I mean, they're going to need some things, I think, to address this team to make it better going forward. But this doesn't feel like a playoff team to me. It doesn't feel good enough.
Yeah, maybe you'll get maybe it'll go crazy and get an underrated fourth receiver to add to their collection.
Yeah, can't wait. Meanwhile,
KJ Osborne, do you think that's a guy?
That could be a guy. I mean, they'll probably pass on drafting Jackson Smith and Jigba or Brock Bowers, and then get one of those guys in free agency.
Yeah, I think so. Vikings, good win for them. A good bounce back win after a tough loss. Kirk Cousins, we saw good primetime Kirk Cousins. A big part of it was Justin Jefferson is very good at football. Adam Thielen and TJ Hawkinson. I mean, that 1-2-3 combo really is, even with Dalvin Cook getting nothing going on the ground, this passing game is good enough to get the win.
Yeah, he was really good in this game. He had 3 or 4 unbelievable throws. I thought he could have had another pick or 2 in this game too. But overall, I thought it was a really good game from Kirk Cousins in this one. And Justin Jefferson's just, I think this is the first time I've gone against him as a fan. And it's annoying. The guy's always open.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you throw at him. He's always open, and it's very frustrating. I will say that.
I had to see
He,
my team play prime Julio Jones twice a year. With Chris Conte trying to cover him.
yeah, I mean, like we have Stephon Diggs right now, and I mean, Stephon Diggs doesn't do anything compared to what this guy's doing right now. I mean, he's got to be
Yeah.
Offensive Player of the Year right now.
Oh yeah. No. Tyreek Hill. It's one of those two.
Yeah, I mean, they're in the conversation too. So Derrick Henry's still probably in that conversation somehow. So I mean, there's going to be a few guys.
Yeah. Let's move on. Let's stick with some of the Thanksgiving games. Let's go Bills Lions. This game ended up being a competitive game as the Lions were able to hang around. They had a chance to win it. A lot of people thought they should have gone for the win. They do not kind of go for the tie there instead. Do not get the tie as Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs, getting a big play there at the end to get the victory. Fun game, competitive game, but ultimately yet another one of the Lions looking good in the 3-point loss games.
Yeah, sounds about right for Dan Campbell. I
Mhm.
was okay with them going for it though. I mean, they had to play this game pretty aggressive, and I thought they did throughout. Um, Bills just kind of won out in this one, and I thought the Lions put themselves in a chance to win by being aggressive. They were 3 of 3 on fourth down in this game. They really wanted to go for it, and try. You're not going to beat the Bills by punting the ball and kicking field goals. So they went for it a few times. I thought they played aggressive. It just wasn't enough in this game.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. I'm interested in seeing this Lions team once Jamison Williams is there. That could be very fun because you have Amon-Ra St. Brown who had over 100 yards. Uh, I'm still confused as to why this Lions team is as good as they are. Like, I don't get it.
I mean, they got some guys, right? Like,
Yeah, they're not terrible.
yeah. So here's my question: is Jared Goff the quarterback of this team next year?
No, you can't. No, you can't have Jared Goff as a quarterback for the team next year.
I mean, they're basically playing. They've probably played their way out of, you know, you're not a draft guy, but people are circling basically two picks for the top guys, two quarterbacks as the top guys. It seems like they've kind of played their way out of that spot.
Well, here's what you have to do. I mean, because the thing about Jared Goff, if he's playing next year, his cap number is 30 million. That would be his cap hit. But if you cut him, you're saving 20 million of that. It would have to be something where like you cut him and then work out a deal, like restructure his contract so he's getting like 15 million or something, right? So that way it's like you're still giving him some money, but he's getting a significant pay cut to Spears. That's what you'd have. No way you can pay him 30 million next year to be your starter.
Yeah, I forgot they had the Rams pick too. That could be their saving grace.
Right.
And they could package probably, if they really like Bryce Young, which I do, but if they like a guy like Bryce Young, they could probably package both picks to move up and get him. So
They could get,
that's
yeah, you're right. I forgot about that as well. Yeah, they could get a quarterback if they want him.
so yeah, draft a quarterback. Never mind.
Yeah.
Forget what I just said. Go get Bryce Young.
Should we be worried about the Bills at all? The Bills kind of, not looking, they were looking so dominant to start the season. They now, I think back-to-back wins against the Browns and Lions, but I thought they looked kind of tough in both of those games at times. They lost to the Vikings in a game they should have won. They lost to the Jets in a game maybe they should have won, and even didn't look great in a 10-point victory against the Packers. And even the week before, they narrowly beat the Chiefs. Very good team. No shame in narrowly beating the Chiefs. That's credit to you. But still, we're not seeing the early Bills that were just running over every team.
Yeah, I mean,
And also Von Miller banged up. Just a lot of stuff.
yeah, I mean, in the NFL, it's probably unrealistic to expect like just one team to be a buzzsaw. Like,
Hmm.
there's just too much parity in the league, right? But at the same time, like, is it anything that we've said that's different about the Bills the last 4 weeks? Like, I still think they're a good football team, but like, it's basic. If you run into hot Josh Allen, you're not beating this team. But the
Josh
question
Allen in
is,
shorts.
yeah, exactly. If you're running into like Josh Allen who's just playing lights out football, you're not going to beat this team. But at the same time, it just depends on when you're going to see lights out Josh Allen, and we haven't really seen it in the last 4 weeks.
Yeah. They're playing the Patriots on Thursday. I know you're convinced the Patriots are the worst team to ever play football. I think that's a very entertaining game. I think I'm very much excited. I'm really excited for Thursday Night Football.
I mean, we'll see. It's basically for the Patriots season, so we'll see what happens.
Kyle, so negative.
Listen, we blew a great chance to beat a team that's 8-2. I'm allowed to
Yeah.
be upset about that.
Yeah, I suppose so. We'll see what both those teams can do for the future. Let's, I guess, just finish up the Thanksgiving games. Why don't we? Giants lost to the Cowboys by what ended up being 8 points. Felt like Prescott threw a couple early interceptions that made this game close, but really, as we expected, this is a mediocre at best team playing a Super Bowl contender. Just so happened they had the same record heading into this game, but the Giants kind of are who we thought they were, right?
Yeah, it definitely feels like that. I mean, the Cowboys, it felt like were the better team throughout this game. The Giants were able to kind of work their way into it, but it just felt like kind of similar to what I said about the Eagles earlier. It felt like the Cowboys kind of just had them at arm's length in this game.
I really could see this Giants team going on a big losing streak here. I mean, they lost to the Lions, they lost to the Cowboys, they played the Commanders twice and the Eagles in their next three, and then the Vikings. So, I mean, and they played the Eagles again. So you have a Colts game in there, but like 1-5, the Giants getting to 500 when is not a guarantee by any means. Granted, you don't have to win a few of those games to make the playoffs because you do have such a good record. You did do a good job of winning games that maybe shouldn't have won early on, but it does feel like you got a good coaching staff, good work. Now maybe this offseason you acquired a talent.
Yeah, I mean honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they go 6 to end the season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it's no fault. I mean, I think teams are basically just saying, especially when they've had Wan'Dale Robinson got hurt, I think last week. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's just like once that happened, it's just like teams are basically just daring them to, they're not letting Daniel Jones on the ground and Saquon Barkley beat them anymore. And I mean, there's just that's the best part of their offense. It might be the only part of their offense left.
Yeah, and listen, there's stuff to like about the Giants too, right? Like I don't want to
Yeah.
sit here and say that there's like nothing. Like Daniel Jones has played competent. Saquon Barkley is obviously awesome, but it's just like again, there are select players on defense who I like, but I just don't think they're a complete enough team.
Yeah, I mean, it's not improbable to say that they can't beat Washington, Indianapolis, even, potentially the Eagles or the Vikings on the right day. I just think, if I'm looking at it, I think they're underdogs in probably 5 of these games at least, if not 6 if you include the Colts if they play better to the end of the year.
Yeah. The flip side for the Cowboys, again, had over a yard per play more than the Giants. I think you look like the better team in this one. But Kyle, I have to say, I know you're a big Cowboys guy. I think you've always been higher on Dak Prescott than I have been over the course of this podcast. This is what scares me about the Cowboys. It's like if Dak Prescott does that against Philadelphia, they're losing to Philadelphia. You know what I mean? Like this is Prescott cannot be doing this again in the postseason, and I just don't know if he can, pull a Matt Stafford and go from like tier 2, maybe fringe tier 3 quarterback play to tier 1 quarterback play in the playoffs. I don't know if he has that in him to play 4 games like that.
Yeah. And it's just like, I mean, you look at if you look at the games he's played this season, besides that Tampa game, which was kind of an anomaly, it seems like for this team, when he takes care of the football, good things tend to happen for this team. And it seems kind of simple and obvious, but you look at this game, I thought they could have thrown away and kind of blown because he had 2 interceptions. And the Green Bay game, they did blow because he didn't have a very good game down the stretch. And it just seems like, I don't know. They do need him to kind of get hot in the playoffs. They kind of need him to get on a little bit of a run. But I also think this is a team that can succeed without him really having to do a whole lot. I mean, the ideal Cowboys game, he's probably throwing 25 passes, right? I think that's what they want. Now he threw 30 in this one, but I mean, it just seems like the idea Cowboys games, he's going 19 to 25 and they're running the ball 35, 40 times.
Yeah, but when does that team win a Super Bowl? The 2015 Broncos.
Yes. But I mean, that was also atrocious quarterback play. If he's,
Right.
good in those 25 passes, it can work.
Sure.
But,
I get what you're saying. It's not like, but it just, maybe the benefit is you're playing an NFC who's weak. Like, don't get me wrong. They're a Super Bowl contender. They are. I'm just saying in that tier, I think it's, you had them as Super Bowl favorites after last week, or not, out of the NFC, I should say, NFC favorites. Why I still have Philadelphia ahead is, there's some scary stuff with Dak Prescott sometimes, I think.
Yeah. The good thing they have is that they have a elite wide receiver right now, CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah,
And
I,
that
I thought I thought they were going to Jake Ferguson.
No, I mean, he was really good too.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, that could be the one thing that, this team has a ton of guys to throw at you. Zeke had a big game in this one, but, last week it was Tony Pollard who went nuts, and
Hmm.
CeeDee Lamb seemingly every week's gone nuts. And if you can get this out of Michael Gallup, that is a really good thing, I think, for this Dallas team too. And then Jake Ferguson all of a sudden and Dalton Schultz as a tight end combination. I mean, they just have a ton of guys, it seems like, to throw at you, where if Dak just kind of has to manage the situation, it feels like.
Yeah, no. There's things I like about both these teams. I think I've successfully pissed off both fan bases when they skip to this part of the show. But there definitely are things to like about both of these teams. I just think that they have very high expectations. I think maybe a little bit below those expectations, but they're both. I mean, again, I like the Giants, I like the Cowboys for what they can do. I'm maybe not quite as high on them as some people are.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We'll see. We've seen better Cowboys games this season. And I think, the best, it's kind of one of those things. If we can get the best version of Dallas, I think they can beat anyone in the NFC. I'm not sure they're going to beat some of the best teams in the AFC, but, I think they can get anybody on the right night.
Yeah, and you don't have to beat more than one AFC team in the playoffs. So that's the
Right.
benefit as well. Um, 4 games left. I guess let's go Broncos Panthers. Why don't we? Sam Darnold, he's back.
He is back. He had some dimes in this game, didn't he?
Yeah, hey, this is the great classic Sam Darnold game.
Yeah, it really felt like it. He's going to have everyone talking about Sam Darnold for the future, and then he'll have like 3 interceptions next week. But we have to for as much as we slander Sam Darnold, we have to give him credit when he plays well. He played well in this game.
Yeah, I have to say I'm kind of buying into Sam Darnold hype. I know I shouldn't. I know I shouldn't. This is a bad idea. I'm kind of buying in.
I mean, what is your hype? Because is he a franchise quarterback?
I
I'm
think
not.
so. Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, this guy's clearly not great at football. But like, I don't know. I feel like there's still some stuff. I feel like he has these games, right, where he looks like he's going to be. He has these games where he makes you realize, oh yeah, that's why he was the third overall selection a few years ago. I think that's really what it is. He's just a talented quarterback. He's just a talented person who just isn't a great quarterback.
That's probably what it is. I mean,
Uh
he
huh.
had 2 or 3 throws that made you say, "Wow," and then he also fumbled his own rushing attempt and rolled into the end zone for a touchdown.
Right.
And you're just like, "What happened?" I don't know.
Yeah.
So, very bizarre game from Sam Darnold, but he did enough to get the win, and mainly because Russell Wilson is not doing enough for his football team once again.
Yeah, how the hell does this happen? Where I'm like, hey, Sam Darnold, look at this. Russell Wilson is playing in this game, and we're just like, well, yeah, he sucks.
Yeah, I mean, this is a bad situation. They're tied to this guy for seemingly 5 years? Like,
Yeah,
not only the dead cap hit on those stuff, like they can't even cut him by like 2025. Otherwise, they're going to eat like $30 million. It seems like.
yeah. I think that we keep talking about like almost like, okay, if Russell Wilson just starts playing well, if Russell Wilson just starts playing well, if Russell Wilson gets better, that's a good point. Of like, if this doesn't go the way that we think it might, if Russell Wilson does start, does just suck now, like you said, next year if they tried to cut him, they take on 107 million in dead cap, and in 2026 if they cut him, they take on 31 million in dead cap. I mean, he's on their roster until 2027.
Yeah, that's that's a bad situation. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, you could say that some of the guys on this team are not very good right now. I mean, I think Sutton's pretty good, but there's not a whole lot of receiving options on this team right now, especially with some of the injuries they're dealing with. Um, but like, I don't know what exactly do you need to get better. I mean, you paid this guy what $200 million, like, and then you need to go pay a number one wide receiver to make sure that he's actually good. Like, it just doesn't seem like it's going to work.
Yeah, $245 million was the actual contract. I mean, you're right. Listen, to say that this has all been Russell Wilson's fault would be silly. Like, there's
Yeah,
clearly been a lot of issues. The Nathaniel Hackett thing has been a mess. I think the biggest root of the issue has been this lack of receiving core. That's just been a mess. There's no one to throw to. That makes everyone look worse. I think that's been a huge issue. But, like, we said this with Sam Darnold, ironically enough. With the Jets, it's like, okay, he's in a bad spot, but he's also not playing well. Russell Wilson's in a bad spot, but he's also not playing well.
yeah,
He had a
and
couple nice plays.
he did, but at the same, yeah, I mean, I just think if you're paying a quarterback $245 million, he should at least be competent, even if the talent around him is bad. Like,
Like, look at Rodgers.
yeah, I mean, he hasn't been great this season, but at least he's been able to kind of, up until this injury, been able to kind of manage the ship. Like, we can, you know, there are guys you can excuse and then say when you put talent around them on a rookie contract, say, good things are going to happen because they have talent around them now. But you can't pay this guy all the money and then say like, oh well, he just doesn't have the talent. He has all the money. You can't spend more money
Right.
than you don't have.
Yeah, I mean, there's some truth to that. I mean, this is Bennett has a chance to be an all time bad trade for the Broncos here. I don't know. I don't know what you do from here. I mean, crazily, the Panthers, going back to them, crazily, they're still not out of it yet, despite being 4-8. Like, they still have an outside shot, just because of how bad the division is. So hey, look at them keeping their playoff hopes alive.
The funniest thing would be what's it called? The Sam Darnold leading this team to a playoff spot just
Oh, that's
because.
so great.
Yeah. And as Matthew Tamer here says, Tim Patrick is a low-key monster. He ain't low-key on this podcast, my friend.
Yeah, Kyle, is this just proof of your take of you famously said you would kill somebody for Tim Patrick to be on your team. Losing him has just completely sunk this team.
It has. They need Tim Patrick back, man. Love that guy.
Also, can I say famously? I don't know if our podcast is popular enough to say that.
No, probably not, but it's okay.
Yeah, famously among on the sideline podcast listeners.
Yeah. I still could use Tim Patrick in New England.
Yeah, I think so. Even with the injury.
Yeah, we'll take him.
Yeah. 3 games left to talk about. We have the Rams, Chiefs, Saints, Niners, and Texans, Dolphins. I guess let's go Texans, Dolphins. This is a really funny game where the Dolphins were so dominant that they pull Tua in the third quarter. They're like, okay, great, we're going to coast to this victory. And then the Texans kind of came back a little bit. So the Dolphins like, wait, what's going on? Did not actually, it would have been a great comeback if that happened. It did not. Kyle Allen, looked like Kyle Allen out there. The Texans looked what a weirder, really rearranging the chairs on the Titanic. The Texans going with Kyle Allen instead of Davis Mills to start this game. I thought, Kyle, your thoughts?
He had one interception in this game where I think it was like Verone McKinley came down with it, and he just like lofted a ball down the sideline. And then McKinley just goes over, and it's like it just falls in his lap. It was just the funniest thing. Like he basically just threw a ball up in the air to see what happened. He had a QBR of 4.2. That's not very good. 4.2. But I gotta criticize Miami here a little bit. I gotta criticize the Dolphins.
Okay.
Your quarterback's on an MVP campaign. Why are you pulling him in the third quarter? Get him some touchdowns. This is the perfect time for him to have 5 touchdowns against this garbage team and let him run up some of his stats. You need your guy in the MVP race. Don't pull him in the third quarter. Come on, man.
Kyle, I think that's a terrible take. No, you're trying to win a Super Bowl here.
And you're trying to get your guy an MVP too.
I don't think they care. I don't think Tua's going to win MVP. I don't think he has losing 3 games. I think that it's going to be tough for him.
I still think I'm holding out hope.
Okay, I get it. You want Tua to win MVP. I understand. I'm just saying, maybe don't let your quarterback who has been getting injured seemingly left and right. He had another bad hit in this one that he was luckily. Oh, by the way, while I'm on commentators making things, the commentators that make things about themselves, I feel like it's driving me crazy. There was a play where Tua gets injured, or not injured, but he gets hit. And it looks tough. I believe this is Tua, unless I'm remembering wrong. Tua gets hit, and I believe it was this game. He sort of like bends over, and one of the commentators says, hey, it pays to be flexible. And the other commentator says, ha ha, I'm not. What are you talking about? Tua's injured. Why are you making this joke here? What is again, Tua's fine, but just what are we doing?
Yeah, I guess that's fair. But at the same time, like, is he really going to get hit twice by the Texans? Probably not. Like he would have been fine.
I guess so. I don't know. We do know the Dolphins love to keep throwing Tua out there when it's probably not safe for him.
That's fair. But
yeah.
I guess it's okay. I mean, the Dolphins dominated this game. It was 30-0 at halftime. There's nothing interesting to talk about this game. The Dolphins are really good. They're undefeated with Tua starting. The Texans are almost a college football team, so we can move on.
All right, moving on. Kyle says enough of this. Let's get to doesn't get a lot better. Sorry, Kyle, but the Saints
Anything's better than that.
49ers, that's debatable. Saints 49ers as the Saints. Last time they got shut out, they were in the same division as the 49ers. Get shut out here 13-0 as not a lot going offensively, obviously. Not a lot going offensively, period, in this one.
It wasn't horrible though. That's the thing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the horrible thing was these two teams went combined 1 for 5 in the red zone. And the
Uh-huh.
Saints going 0 for 2 in the red zone with 0 points was kind of the backbreaker in this game. I mean, they only had 260 yards of offense, so I'm not going to go ahead and say this was a good game by any means, but this was a game that both teams ran the ball a lot, as we kind of expected, and there was only 9 drives in this game. There wasn't a lot of football being played in this one, and Saints didn't capitalize on their chances when they finally did get down there in the red zone. So kind of blew it in that regard, but this 49ers defense is really good.
Yeah, in fairness, you're saying it wasn't that bad, but you also recently watched every minute of the Jets Patriots 10-3 game.
I did watch every minute. So yeah, so this was probably a step up from that, but not much.
Right. No, I'm joking. But you're right. I mean, it wasn't like you see the score and say, oh wow, this must have been just this crazy performance. Like both teams had over 4.7 yards per play in this one. The Saints actually had more yards per play than the Niners did. So you're right. It was not like this disastrous showing. It was just kind of, I don't know. The 49ers play in more weird games than anyone in the league, it seems.
Yeah, it does, but it's because they don't have a great offense, but they have a great defense. And I don't know, like this defense dominated this game. They didn't need to score that much. We had just been saying that Jimmy Garoppolo was having a pretty good stretch of football. This was not a pretty good stretch of football for him. I didn't think he was bad, but he wasn't great.
Yeah, but again, don't take this Garoppolo, right? Don't turn the ball over. Be the game manager. You don't have to be perfect. You can miss a throw or two. Just don't screw up too badly.
I mean, I don't even think he got sacked in this game either. I mean, he had 1 sack for 1 yard. So, I mean,
okay.
Guess bench him. So.
Yeah. Again, I've seen some people talk about the Jameis Winston versus Andy Dalton thing. Kind of goes back to the feels like you're rearranging seats on the Titanic, right? Like, do whatever you want. I don't know, put Taysom Hill there, whatever.
He did throw 1 pass in this game. It was almost caught.
There you go.
I don't know. Like,
hey, that's good for the Patriots or for the Saints getting a pass that's almost caught.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know. This was a pretty ugly Saints game, and it's just it's not very fun watching this team, I have to say.
Yeah. Someone brought up Jimmy G did throw an interception that got called back because of illegal contact. So yeah, that's true as well. But hey, whatever. We can erase those.
Yeah, it doesn't count. It's not on the stat sheet.
Yeah. Also, Matthew in the chat saying, but the Titanic would be more fun with Jameis. Kyle, what if James Cameron's Titanic was filmed with Jameis Winston instead of Leonardo DiCaprio?
Probably better. I mean, I know Leo's a pretty good actor, but I mean, is he Jameis Winston? I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it would certainly be a more memorable performance potentially.
Does he have the raw charisma of Jameis Winston? I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, that would be. Someone should make that remake Titanic with Jameis Winston. Remake a bunch of movies. Put Jameis Winston in movies. The guy should be a movie star.
He's certainly not a quarterback. It seems like.
All right. Well, let's move on. Final game. Rams Chiefs. We talked about defending champions being 15-point underdogs against the Chiefs. Well, the Chiefs covered here. They were able to pull off a 26-10 victory in what was a tough one for Bryce Perkins and the Rams. Again, don't know what we expected from Bryce Perkins and the Rams. I mean, kind of like I thought. Okay, Chiefs are good and the Rams stink, right? I mean, this Rams team might be the worst team in football without Matthew Stafford.
Well, and now it doesn't have Allen Robinson either. It might be the worst football team with Matthew Stafford. Honestly,
yeah, no kidding.
It's. I mean, honestly, though, like if you looked at just pure game script, like this is probably how the Rams wanted to play this game. I think their defense gave the Chiefs a little bit of trouble, especially down in the red zone. The Chiefs got yards, but they didn't finish a ton of drives. But that being said, I mean, when you're starting Bryce Perkins on the other side, I mean, you got to hold a team to basically 9 points, and they couldn't do that. So no one's going to do that against the Chiefs. But I think the game script, like they kind of did what they wanted to against this Chiefs offense, where they got stops, they held them to field goals at times. But I mean, they just don't have the personnel offensively to keep up.
Yeah, I don't know. Just a complete season from hell from the Rams. I honestly, Kyle, I'm not exaggerating. I have no idea what to talk about with this game. I feel like nothing I'm saying is adding anything, and I can't give anyone any information here.
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't
Travis
know.
Kelce's good, in case you didn't know. He had a good play.
Yeah, he was very. I mean, that touchdown was impressive too. On I think it was Jalen Ramsey too. I mean, the thing is like, so I guess the one thing would be like, so, like I said, we saw this Rams defense have some success in the red zone stopping the Chiefs. The problem I'm having is like, is this something that can be copied by other teams, or is this Rams defense still just really good?
I think the Rams defense is still really good. I do think this
Mhm.
Rams defense is a good team, and I actually I'll say this too, Kyle. I don't think the Rams are dead in future years. I think they just got to kind of rethink their strategy a little bit. Of if you're paying a quarterback big money, you do kind of have to go a little bit more trying to build depth around the roster. Maybe with I mean it's tough because you have no first round picks and all that stuff. But I do think that try to maybe use some cap space to build some depth as opposed to trying to get another star might be what's in order here from the Rams perspective. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does make sense because, like you said, I do think this defense is good. They got to retool the offense a little bit, but yeah, I mean, it's tough because I mean, it's not like they can even just, they lost both their receivers this season. And, you could say Allen Robinson was having a different disappointing season. He was still their number two receiver and they lost him. So,
Hmm.
and the problem is like they can't shut down Matthew Stafford because what does tanking at this point do for you except for, I mean, they don't have a first round pick. So it's not like they can really tank.
Right, unless you want to get your second round pick to be as good as possible, like which I guess but yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's a weird spot. I also have to say this too. Do we still blame the Rams at all for having no real backup quarterback option? Like, we've seen John Wolford, we've seen Bryce Perkins come in. Like, it's not like Stafford is someone who's known for never missing time. Like, he is someone who will miss games. He is someone who will put himself in harm's way at times. Like, it's not out of the question that you're going to get an injury to him. He's going to miss some time. I know it doesn't matter this year, but like in future years, should they also, again, you only have so much resources. I get it, but maybe just I don't know. Like you could have drafted a Bailey Zappi.
Yeah. Didn't they have Bortles? I mean, I don't know.
Right.
There are a few things that they could have done, I think. But I mean, backup quarterback is so hard to evaluate who's going to be good and who's not. I think they felt comfortable with a guy like Walford who knew the offense, and then Walford got hurt. And I mean, didn't play well, but he got hurt. So it's just kind of tough to evaluate that.
Yeah, I guess so. Tough spot for the Rams there. Kyle, that's your show.
That is our show.
Went a
Um,
little long, but I think there was a lot to talk about this week.
Well, we had 16 games this week, so a lot to
Yeah.
talk about. Or we talked about 15, but one more to go. We're dead even on the picks, so this should be an exciting last day. Potentially take the lead here.
Yeah, if the Steelers win, you will take the lead heading into the next week. So yeah, crazy how but we've been so tight. I feel like these past I feel like every week you made up a point and now we're tied. Now we're staying tied.
Yep, got to bring it home. Let's make it happen. I'm gonna win this year. That's all I know.
Okay, so all Team Kyle fans, make sure you cheer on the Steelers to win that one. Yeah. If you like audio only podcast, anywhere you get the podcast, check on the Sideline Podcast. That should be available so you can listen. Which that's how I like to listen to podcasts. I do that. So that's available for you if you're interested. Kyle, did you already do the Twitter plugs?
No, I have not. I'll do it right now. Make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Gronin. And make sure to follow the account page at On the Sideline JK. That's at On the Sideline JK. And because we won't see you until Wednesday, let's bring it home, USA. Let's get through the group stage.
Yeah, let's go. Hopefully they can beat Iran. Also to say, for the Monday night game tomorrow, that might be the one you say, maybe spend some time with your family.
Yeah, that'd be fine. You can go go see a movie or something, that Glass Onion was pretty good. If anyone wants to go see that, it was good.
Yeah, that was good. I saw it too.
Oh yeah, I liked it.
Yeah,
So,
fun for the whole family. Absolutely.
is it fun for the whole family, or I don't know? Is
Yeah,
it
well,
kind
who
of an
wouldn't
adult
like it?
movie? I
How
don't
is it
know.
an adult movie?
I don't know. I guess it. I'm trying to remember. I don't even remember what the rating was. It was good. It was really good.
Yeah, I
Everybody
think it
will
might have been
like it.
PG-13. It feels like a. I mean, okay, maybe not for like your 6-year-old. Whatever. Let your 6-year-old see it. Come on. Don't shelter your kid from everything.
Yeah, exactly. Make it happen. It was good.
Yeah, okay. Make sure everyone who has a 6-year-old take it to see Glass Onion. Kyle, what are we talking about? What happened? Why are we here?
We're plugging Glass Onion, obviously.
Yes, this podcast sponsored by Glass Onion.
All right, good stuff. All right, we can go now.
Yes, okay, we can go home. It's very late. Let's get out of here. Again, thank you to everybody. We do appreciate it. And until next time, see you later, alligator.
Peace.